Alright, what is up YouTube? It is K right here. I'm back with another good video for you guys today. I'm going to be talking about a theoretical thought video for boxing wise for those of you that may be interested. So I'm just going to speak my piece and just talk about it. So for tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about how Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury could have fought for Undisputed if Tyson Fury did not cheat against Klitschko. So basically, I'm going to be shedding on Tyson Fury for screwing up Undisputed with Deontay Wilder back in 2015, when I believe Tyson Fury, he was about 25, if 25 at the time, or 20, basically Fury, he was in his prime, and Deontay Wilder at that time frame, he was in his prime. So let's talk about that. Because I feel like that's a fight that a lot of people did not really call for, and a lot of people did not want to see Tyson Fury face Deontay Wilder until Tyson Fury had the upper edge in cheating against Deontay Wilder. And I think the whole deal with how Tyson Fury managed to basically get all this political protectionism to have cheating on his side, to even barely beat Deontay Wilder, just to keep it a buck. But as far as what the opportunity had shown, at the time when Fury had beat Klitschko back in 2015 to get all the belts, or three of the belts, to be one fight away to fight Deontay Wilder for Undisputed, that is a fight that nobody doesn't want to talk about. So let me talk about that, and hopefully you guys can, put your thoughts down below for those of you that could be interested. So for those of you that don't know, Tyson Fury, he fought Vladimir Klitschko back in 2015, and he had a pretty good, decent fight with Klitschko. Obviously, his punches weren't even hurting Klitschko. Klitschko pretty much got cheated in the fight regardless, but Tyson Fury, he was complaining about the glove size and all that bullshit. And it's pretty funny because Tyson Fury actually was exposed for him complaining about the glove selection that Vladimir Klitschko wanted to have. He wanted to have a certain type of gloves that were going to be made for the fight, and Klitschko, he demanded that Fury fights Klitschko with the same brand of gloves. And then Tyson Fury, he was obviously complaining about him not getting his certain brand of gloves, which was the Path and Sport gloves, the same gloves that he used against Deontay Wilder in the second and third fight that he cheated in. But it's kind of funny because those same Path and Sport gloves, those gloves were fully padded to the knuckle. Because if you see it in the third and second fight, Tyson Fury had no padding in those gloves in the second and third fight. And there's also more controversy with him being drugged up at the same time too. So either way, I find it very weird that Tyson Fury decided to cheat against Klitschko by taking Nandrolone, but he never wanted to go that far with having unpadded gloves, because those same Path and Sport gloves that he used against Klitschko, that pretty much showed why Tyson Fury did not want to screw this up. Because even though Klitschko, he was technically the A side coming into the fight, why would you want to come into the fight with Nandrolone and try to act like, you had something, to, cheat for in order to win a fight that you could have easily won fair and square? But, Tyson Fury just basically blew the opportunity, and, this is where Tyson Fury was out the ring for 3+ years, leading into his comeback, and then he comes into, this opportunity with Deontay Wilder just out of nowhere, and this is how he gets his, bullshit, heavyweight, cheating shine. But as far as this fight alone, Tyson Fury, could have had the opportunity to have fought Deontay Wilder for Undisputed at this time frame. And back in 2015, when Deontay Wilder had won the title from Mr. Bermain Stavern back in 2015. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he beat Bermain Stavern. So pretty much he could have easily fought Tyson Fury at this time frame because Tyson Fury basically wasn't doing anything at this time frame, and if he hadn't cheated against Mr. Vladimir Klitschko, I think that would have been a better thing to do in order to solidify Undisputed. So my biggest question to Tyson Fury dick riders, or just basically Deontay Wilder haters, why weren't you guys calling for Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder to fight each other? Even though Fury, he was still cheating and he was still getting away with all his bullshit, cheating tactics. But if Tyson Fury was so confident to beat Vladimir Klitschko at this time frame, why couldn't he just push for Undisputed right then and there? Because the problem is that Tyson Fury was never supposed to fight Deontay Wilder at this time frame back in 2018. Deontay Wilder decided to bring him to that level, and that's what made Deontay Wilder basically a promotional basically a promotional gemstone to Tyson Fury's name, because Tyson Fury basically clouts off of Deontay Wilder. That's true, because without Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury would have probably been out, doing his thing, doing drugs and being lazy and just not giving a crap about life, and he probably would have been dead at this point, because Tyson Fury, he was a massive cokehead. He was not doing anything right with his life. He said he suffered from depression, but obviously that wasn't true. He was doing drugs that pretty much showed that his mindset wasn't even right. And Tyson Fury, he was an absolute loser. That is true. He was a very sick, evil person. And he still is to this day. And now you same Tyson Fury fans say, oh, Tyson Fury, oh, he's never, undisciplined. He's always on another level, and he's just better than Deontay Wilder. And you're just hating on Tyson Fury because Tyson Fury, he just beat Deontay Wilder. And you guys want to bitch and complain that, he got through, he just whipped Deontay Wilder's ass and, got blamed for cheating and all this other nonsense. No, so obviously the whole controversy of Tyson Fury basically being hyped up to say like he's the baddest man on the planet because he beat Deontay Wilder. He beat the man that beat everyone at the division. He barely beat Deontay. He, if anything, he really never beat Deontay Wilder. He can't beat him, without having a unfair advantage to try to barely even beat him. So I think the whole thing about what shouldn't have happened at all could have happened in the past between Wilder and Tyson Fury. See, now the thing is that Tyson Fury never called out Deontay Wilder. That's a fact. Deontay Wilder called out Tyson Fury when people were saying Deontay Wilder was afraid of Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder took it to his own accord to press on Tyson Fury and go over to the UK or wherever he was being promoted at, and he was hunting Tyson Fury down. So Tyson Fury had no interest in fighting Deontay Wilder in the first place. But for some weird reason, why would you want to face a Deontay Wilder in 2018 when prior to fighting Tyson Fury, he was going through a massive war with Luis Ortiz, and then after the draw with Fury, he then knocks out Dominic Breazeale, goes another war with Luis Ortiz in a 7th round knockout, and then Tyson Fury found Deontay Wilder at a good spot where he was a little bit more vulnerable. But the thing was is that obviously Wilder was cheated, he was drugged, and all that, crazy stuff that happened to him, because obviously Fury, he wasn't really that good even in the second or third fight, but it pretty much showed that Tyson Fury still can't beat Deontay Wilder no matter how much cheating he does. The only way he actually got away with these two victories was that he caught Deontay Wilder at his worst disadvantage, and then he tried to take advantage of it and try to act like he's better when we all know he's not. See now, if this fight would have happened years ago, back in 2015, Deontay Wilder should have fought Tyson Fury in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Because I believe that if this fight had happened back in 2015, and Tyson Fury basically, wanted to make excuses at that time frame to say, oh, Deontay Wilder, he doesn't deserve my shot, with him, and whatever, he's not better than me, and I'm better than him, and blah, blah, blah. But, the pressure from his fans and Deontay Wilder's fans, that would have made the fight a lot bigger. And don't get it twisted, all three fights were really huge and it made a lot of money, but still, the price that Deontay Wilder had to go through just to go through all this massive cheating nonsense that, barely almost, or like basically almost took his life away. And I'm happy that Deontay Wilder is doing well, and he's, having a great life outside of boxing, with his family and friends. But it's like, if this hadn't happened the way it happened, and it happened like how things, should have happened back in, 2015, I think the fight itself would have been a lot better to have it back in the past in 2015, because if Tyson Fury did not cheat against Vladimir Klitschko, then Deontay Wilder would have caught Tyson Fury on his worst performance, and then that would have made the fight a lot bigger. Because if you think about it, from the first fight, Tyson Fury didn't know what Deontay Wilder possessed. He didn't know what Deontay Wilder gave to him. So that's why from the second and third fight, Tyson Fury decided to go with Sugar Hill at that time, so that way he could cheat a lot better in that fight. But in the first encounter, in the first fight, and even a Deontay Wilder that was more younger and more athletically mobile, Deontay Wilder had way better attributes and physical advantages over Tyson Fury if they had fought in 2015 versus in 2018, where Deontay Wilder had to go through wars and his body had wear and tear at that time frame, so he wasn't the best version of Deontay Wilder. And that's true, because if a Deontay Wilder back in 2015, just to be exact, Deontay Wilder, he's 36 years old. So from 2015, that's like 7 years. He would have been, 29 years old. So why were we not pushing for a Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury unification, knowing that AJ wouldn't have been a world champion? Because from what we're seeing is that Deontay Wilder was being ratted out. He was being frozen out by the boxing establishment, and people didn't want him to become the greatest. And I truly believe Deontay Wilder, he can get undisputed right now if he really wants to, but at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder has shown that he is levels above Tyson Fury and everyone else in the heavyweight division, and I truly believe that no matter how many times people try to say Tyson Fury will always have Wilder's number, he will never have Wilder's number, because Wilder had Fury's number in the first place. It's just that Tyson Fury knew that Deontay Wilder could have easily caught him at, at the right place at the right time if he was at the peak of his prime. And knowing that Tyson Fury, he wasn't really at his prime, he was still going through the downfall of his prime, fighting Deontay Wilder in all three fights, and it shows that Tyson Fury, he's mentally and physically damaged from Deontay Wilder. You can hear it in his voice, you can hear it, or you could see it in his body language. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I just wanted to put that out there, and I think it was a good assessment to actually say that Because if Deontay Wilder had fought Tyson Fury back in 2015, the very first time, for Undisputed, I guarantee you Tyson Fury wouldn't have won. Because the fight would have been in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Deontay Wilder would have been the A side. And Tyson Fury, he would have had to take the fight or basically be shamed by the media. And he would have probably lost his belt at that time frame. If he didn't want to fight Deontay Wilder until Deontay Wilder was probably aged out. But still, it's like Deontay Wilder, he doesn't need to fight Tyson Fury. He could just wait for Fury to lose, and then boom, he could go for Undisputed. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this fight in 2015 wouldn't have been makeable? And I think, if anything, could Deontay Wilder had gone for these belts when Fury had, vacated these belts due to him cheating the minute when those belts were gone? Because if anything, he could have petitioned to either sanction a body, and Deontay Wilder could have at least had 2 to 3 belts at that time frame. But that's what I wanted to just talk and chat, and that's pretty much it, man. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know what you guys think. Do you think Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury for Undisputed back in 2015 would have been better? Or do you think what happened now is basically due to Tyson Fury's fault for basically being a fuck-up? And Deontay Wilder, he made the mistake of trying to give Fury a opportunity, and, it was just only, driven to Deontay Wilder's willpower as a fighter and his warrior spirit to try to get the best of Tyson Fury, knowing that Fury, he really can't beat Wilder at all without having to try to cheat. But that's pretty much it. I still have Tyson Fury under Deontay Wilder. I think Wilder will always be better than Fury in every single category. And Tyson Fury is not really that big of a mega fighter, Tyson Fury is not what, everyone thinks he is. And I think it would have been a lot better if Deontay Wilder had caught him in 2015. And shit, I don't know. Honestly, Wilder didn't really need to fight him at all. But, just putting those pieces together in the puzzle, that would have made a whole different timeline. And Tyson Fury probably would have been just, back to his old ways, being a drug addict and just being an absolute fuck up. And I'm just keeping it real, because if Deontay Wilder didn't want to fight Tyson Fury at all, and Deontay Wilder could have easily just fought Andy Ruiz, Frank Sanchez, or whoever, Deontay Wilder would have been defending his titles 10 to 15 times, already. Deontay Wilder would just be making a crap load of money, and he'd just be like, okay, I'm just waiting for Undisputed. I'm just going to keep defending my belt, keep doing these voluntary defenses, and he don't need Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is only there because of Deontay Wilder. So that's why that I say Deontay Wilder will always be above Tyson Fury, because Deontay Wilder made Tyson Fury to be where he's at. And Deontay Wilder can still beat Tyson Fury, if everything was on a level playing field. But to the cheating level, I think Deontay Wilder has shown no matter how much you cheat against him, he's still a threat to kill you and beat you in the ring. And you're never going to come out the same way. You're going to come out a lot worse, and Deontay Wilder is still going to have that warrior killer mindset to come after you and kill you, if his life is going to be sacrificed for it. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think, and I have more videos coming out for you guys in the future. And yeah, that's about it. So thank you guys. Shout out to the king, Mr. Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder, and his family. And shout out to you, Tay Jones. You're a beast. Everyone go subscribe to Mr. Tay Jones. He's a absolute, boxing mastermind. And that's about it. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And I'm out, y'all. Bye.